Good morning, everyone. It's October the 8th, 2023. I'm going to be talking about something that happens sometimes in response to Julie's story there. Sometimes when things happen in our childhood and that, things happen to the point where people start having flashbacks or something traumatic has happened to them in their childhood. And this is what happened with one of my viewers that reached out to me after he saw Julie's video. He responded, quite upset, and I can understand because it dragged up some very bad memories, and one in particular that I want to talk about today. When he was young, actually, before I even get into it, I want to talk to you about something else as well. And this is going back to memories and a terrible tragedy that happened. The whole world was caught up in it. And that has a specific date, September the 11th, 2001, 9/11. And this little story had just cropped up on the online. I picked it up and I wrote it down and felt that this was a good thing on what I've been trying to say about having the animals as service dogs, as police dogs and that, and what these animals can do. So I'm going to put my glasses on. I want to read this to you first because this has a bearing to what I've been talking about in the videos. And it's a very, very heartwarming story. And for this young man who reached out to me as well, I think he's going to maybe benefit from this story as well. So I'm going to put my glasses on here now, and I'm going to read it to you. James Crane worked on the 101st floor of Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. He is blind, so he has a golden retriever named Daisy. After the plane hit 20 stories below, James knew that he was doomed, so he let Daisy go out of an act of love. She darted away into the darkened hallway. Choking on the fumes of the jet fuel and the smoke, James was just waiting to die. About 30 minutes later, Daisy comes back, along with James's boss, who Daisy just happened to pick up on the floor 112th on her first run of the building. She led James's boss, and about 300 more people out of the doomed building. But she wasn't through yet. She knew there were others who were trapped. So, highly against James' wishes, she ran back into the building. On her second run, she saved 392 lives. Again, she went back in. During this run, the building collapses. James hears about this and falls on his knees in tears. Against all known odds, Daisy made it out alive. But this time, she is carried by a firefighter. She led us right to the people before she got injured, the fireman explained. Her final run saved another 273 lives. She suffered acute smoke inhalation, severe burns on all four paws, and a broken leg, but she saved 967 lives. 967 lives. That's a lot of lives. Daisy is the first civilian canine to win the Medal of Honor of New York City. And then, of course, the thing is, pass it on to all animal lovers. And because I'm known as a definite animal lover, this was passed on to me. So I wish to pass it on to all my viewers here. But getting back to what happened to this young man at the age of 6, he was telling me about his mother's boyfriend who raped him. And he was raped at the age of 6. And Julie's story, like I said, brought this back. And it was a very bad thing that happened to him. And I want to let this young man know I'm wearing a shirt on his behalf today. Every child matters, and every child does matter. I'm definitely wearing my orange shirt, not yellow, but orange. And I want to commend him for coming out and speaking to me about this, because I understand he's still so angry inside that what happened to him. But I want him to know that it wasn't his fault what happened to him. And as I reached out to him through a texting, I told him I hope he has good people around him to support him. And that is so terribly important. In my recovery, having the proper people around to support me, I had some counseling, yes, But my life has been more of a movie rather than a pleasant one on that 40 years of abuse that I went through. And a lot of things now I can talk about after 50 years of what happened to me. So this is what I want to talk a little bit about too, is what happened and how it fits in with this young man. One of the things that happened was when people you trust totally betray you. My second husband at the time, his cousin moved in with us. And little did we know just what sort of a person he was. We took him in out of sympathy and pity because we believed in looking after our family members. And we were rewarded with, we had 3 boys. The oldest 2 were 6 and 8 at the time. And our 6-year-old came to us and told us a story on how what was happening was he was molested, both of them, our 6 and 8-year-old, by him. Now we tried hard to solve the situation. We did get him help. We got him out of the house right away. I'm so proud of my son for coming forward and mentioning this and telling us what was going on because we had no clue. This wasn't something that I had never dealt with because as a child I was certainly not molested. But I can certainly understand this young man, his feelings, because I was not molested as a child, but as a young woman, yes, I was raped. That was between my first husband and my second husband. And it was a colleague from my first husband who did this to me, who took advantage of the situation. As I've told people, that my first husband was a police officer. It was one of his colleagues that used the situation to his advantage against me at the time. So coming from an adult point of view and seeing the child going through what we had to go through, and we didn't know how to properly deal with the authorities or anything else, so it really turned my second husband and our lives upside down at the time. Like, how do you deal with this? And I realized that it took me a while to realize that because of what happened to me as an adult, I froze. I wasn't able to deal with it properly as I probably should have at that time for my children when my children needed me. So it's not, I can understand as well Julie's mother not being there for the children because of her having her mental issues. In my case, it was finally, after all these years, I was finally diagnosed correctly that all the things that I had gone through, it was chronic post-traumatic stress that I was suffering from. So once I got a diagnosis, then it was a lot easier to deal with because between the 2 husbands, it was always, oh, we're going to the counselor. Oh, it's marriage problems. But sometimes it's not always marriage problems. It's things that happen outside the marriage. And I'm going to, not today, but I'm going to tell you another story about what happens on bullying and something outside the marriage when it takes place. But today, I just wanted to acknowledge this young man. I would strongly suggest if he doesn't have any male friends or good support around him, that if he happens to live in the Ottawa area, please call the Ottawa Distress Center, because I'm sure that they can hook you up with a support group. I know that men have different issues than women as well, and it's much easier for the women to get support than it is for the men. But I'm sure you can probably get a number to hook up with someone to help you deal with this. Because as even Julie said, I'm so glad I'm coming out with this. I'm actually able to talk about it. And I said, Julie, I'm so proud of you. You actually wanted to talk to people. And you're able to talk about it now in public, which is wonderful because this is what I have been doing and how my healing has helped by being able to talk to people. And in some cases now, after 50 years, it's actually safe for me to talk about what happened with my marriages and unfortunately, with my police officer husband, he got into a criminal element that I was being threatened. My life was being threatened as well as my family's life was being threatened. So I had to kind of zip my mouth, and it was the only way out of it. And then, of course, my first and my second husband also were fighting over me because my first husband didn't want me to get a divorce, and my second husband wanted to marry me. So I was caught up in the middle of a war. at the same time. But it also, what happened with my first husband, it took me 13 years to figure out what went wrong. And that was after being threatened and then even having a kidnapping attempt on my oldest child. So it was better to keep my mouth shut. But now I totally feel free to be able to talk. So today I just wanted to give a brief on this. And I wanted to say a thank you to that young man very much for coming forward and telling me his story. But I'm not a counselor. And as Julie said, you're the only one that can help yourself. You have to do the work. I had to do the work. Julie had to do the work to get out of this feelings and to come to terms with everything. You have to do the work yourself. That's what it comes down to. So thank you for everyone for listening again. Take care, be safe, and enjoy the rest of your holiday. And there'll be more stories coming from me on my life and how I've been able to now speak out, and I believe speaking out now is a way that I can actually help other people. So everyone, take care, have a nice day, and enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye. Take care.